The default name for video games everywhere, Nintendo, has proven themselves to be efficient in creating video games. Starting from their roots of making Hanafuda cards and moving up to create Game & Watch handhelds, before finally striking big with the Donkey Kong arcade cabinet. They've been in the market of making games for a while, with them earning their name for their video games. Not content to just leave luck to heaven, they created perhaps the most iconic library of video games anyone could recognize. These games about plumbers platforming to save princesses, and ones about using the weapons triangle to fight against other warriors to evade permadeath, are given life thanks to their own unique settings, gameplay mechanics, and characters. With a survey from the 1990s even stating that Mario is more well-known than Mickey Mouse, it's safe to say that Nintendo achieved their goals of being the next Disney, and then some. From an adventuring swordsman in green to a tiny robot that cleans, Nintendo's pantheon of protagonists is well populated with their fair share of unique characters. Of course, this being 1UpBinge, we're here to answer the question of just who is the holiest of these heroes. I'm Kifinosi with 1UpBinge, and this is Nintendo Heroes Good to Most Heroic. Of course, we can't really look over every single Nintendo hero, no matter how hard we try, so we're going to have to limit our scope. First off, only the more noteworthy Nintendo heroes will be counted, but we'll try to diversify the list with different characters that Nintendo may have forgotten about. Secondly, we're limiting the list of heroes per franchise to 3 characters. Thirdly, we must be able to play as them in the games, not just in Smash. Fourthly, some of these characters and their different versions are going to be compiled into just one character entry, like Link and Mr. Game & Watch having a different character for each game. And finally, if there are groups of characters with similar goals and personalities, we'll just group them together. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin the list. Starting this list off, we have the self-serving heroes. These are the heroes that really only just focus on their own personal lives and not much else. They may be nice and friendly folks, but they're not actual heroes like some of the bigger names of the Nintendo heroes. First up on this player select screen, we have the master of 2 dimensions, Mr. Game & Watch. Being the star of the handheld Game & Watch systems, each of his games all revolve around doing one task and trying to perfect it. Juggling balls, keeping gardens clean of any vermin, and making sure oil doesn't catch fire. These games are all heavily reliant on staying vigilant and knowing just where to move the Game & Watches in the games. Fitting for these simple games, Mr. Game & Watch is just that simple of a character. Given that these guys are all just doing jobs, their morality really isn't that easy to read. The closest we get to introducing morality to Mr. Game & Watch is in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, where it's revealed that he is the source of the shadow bugs, being a 2D being, meaning that he can endlessly produce if extracted. Despite these shadow bugs being made to cause trouble, it's been told by Sakurai through the Smash Bros. Dojo website that Mr. Game & Watch is unable to tell good and evil apart. And he is shown to be remorseful after Peach revives him and shows him that what he did was wrong. Overall, while he didn't really do much heroic, the Mr. Game & Watches of all these games are pretty standard folks, meaning that they're all just living their lives and doing their best, and as such, place this low. For the second of these self-serving heroes, we have a TKO, with the bruiser from the Bronx, Little Mac. A boxer from New York City, Little Mac's goal is to be the best of the best when it comes to boxing. Yes, this is just another person in it for themselves. However, unlike Game & Watch, we do get to see more of Mac's character, especially in Punch-Out for the Wii. Despite all the cheating and taunting that Mac is given by the other fighters, he never fires back any insults nor cheats himself, instead preferring to let his punches speak for themselves. He's also very disciplined, training with Doc Lewis no matter what type of exercise he's going to be doing. He's also well aware of just when it's the time to throw in the towel. After losing any fight in the title defense mode, Mac will willingly give over his belt to the winner, even if he does not like it. More specifically, in Mac's last stand, Mac realizes that he won't stay on top forever and plans to go out on his own terms, fighting competitors until he's defeated 3 times, retiring after that. While Mac is just another person in it for glory, he's definitely a respectable fighter as well as an honorable one. Up next are the community heroes. These heroes are the heroes who, while they may not be fighting actual threats, are still doing their best to bring peace to their communities. Alternatively, they could be heroes that have a couple of sins weighing them down. Starting off this section, the mayor of Smashville, Villager, has come to town. Now, with the game that's just a life simulator, you probably aren't expecting that many world-saving epics or tales, and you'd be completely right on the money. Just moving into town in the Animal Crossing games, the games revolve around you trying to get acquainted with the animals in your town and befriending them. In the first 3 games, you're just another villager like anyone else, getting in debt to Tom Nook and having to work your bill off. In New Leaf and New Horizons, however, you got a bit more of an active role, being the mayor of a town in New Leaf and an island representative in New Horizons, where your role is to make the town and island look as pretty and nice to live in as possible. This is done by not only just placing furniture and funding projects, but by also donating bugs, fish, art, and fossils to museums, and just by being a nice and decent person to the other villagers. Villager is just as nice and pleasant as the rest of the game series. Speeding on in the Blue Falcon is the supersonic slugger, Captain Falcon. This hotshot is a racer for the F-Zero races. He's a very competitive fighter on the racetrack and is proud of it. Being another person here just for themselves really doesn't do much for him, nor is the fact that he's a bounty hunter, meaning he's also just looking for where to make the most money. Now, sure, the bounties that he does pick up are for those that are rather vile, so completing them, they're still good deeds. He has helped out an old man after he lost all his money in F-Zero GX, racing on his behalf and giving the old man all the winnings from betting on him. He also managed to save Jodie Summers' life, rescuing her from a detonating factory. He's also retrieved the Ultimate Champion's belt from Deathborn, vowing to keep the belt safe from being used for evil. He's definitely able to do good deeds, but his main motive at the end of the day is money, so while he is a hero, he was just a bit too slow in comparison to the other members here. Crash landing here is the veteran astronaut, Olimar. Hailing from planet Hokotate, Olimar is an employee of Hokotate Freight, a shipping company that sends mail across the stars to other planets. One day after finishing his route, he sails back home, only to get knocked out of the sky by an asteroid. Crash landing into PNF 404, this captain quickly befriends the native wildlife, the Pikmin themselves, thanks to his whistle sounding nice to them, and not only helps their numbers grow, but also recruits their help to get his ship parts. This may look like he's taking advantage of them for his own survival, but this is definitely not the case. He's fascinated with the Pikmin and treasures their company. Olimar is constantly taking notes on them and is in constant wonder at their feats. He also doesn't like seeing them dying. When they die of a bomb rock, he chides himself in the voyage log, saying he needs to do better. If there's a Pikmin extinction, Olimar becomes utterly ashamed of himself and promises himself to do better next time. Sure, you could argue that he disrupted an entire ecosystem, but considering how all these Pikmin were on the verge of extinction, had it not been for Olimar stepping up, it's very likely that Olimar not only saved their species, but taught them how to fight for themselves. Plus, he was doing this just to make sure he could return to his family, so he's definitely a devoted family man. Sure, he does return to the planet to try and scavenge treasure for his company, but given how this company was on the verge of debt, he didn't have that much of a choice the first time around in Pikmin 2. In Pikmin 3, with him risking his life for treasure, we could count that against him for being greedy, even if this is apparently a common trait in all Hokokatians, if Brittany is to be believed. Still, regardless of his greed, Olimar is one respectable space explorer who saved his company from ruin. Rising from the ink, it's part kid, part squid, all inkling. Specifically Agent 3 and Agent 4, these inklings were brought forth after an apocalypse that caused Earth's sea level to rise, forcing humans into extinction. In their place, squids rose from the sea, evolving into the inklings. As the new dominant species, they've reclaimed the Earth for themselves. As the new dominant species of Earth, they soon made themselves at home, only for the rival Octarians to fight them for a rapidly shrinking land. Eventually becoming victorious due to a plug being pulled from the Octarians' weaponry, the inklings then proceeded to live in peace and fun, playing turf war and various other forms of sports. However, when the great Zapfish gets stolen, these inklings are just as willing, if silent, to go after DJ Octavio to rescue the great Zapfish. They were even instrumental in finding Callie after she got hypnotized by Octavio with the hypno shade glasses, helping Marie free her. It may be a mystery if they're truly a kid or squid, but overall, they are heroes. Making himself a spot here, it's the self-made king, King Dedede. First starting out as a villain in Kirby's original outing, King Dedede just wanted all the food in Dreamland to himself. However, after being bested by Kirby, the king then saw him as a rival, wanting to prove himself as better than Kirby, be it by organizing fighting tourneys or by hosting gourmet races where the winner is the one with the biggest stomachache, that being eating as much food as they can while racing to the finish line. Seriously, that cannot be healthy in any dose. Aside from that though, King Dedede has shown himself to at least be interested in keeping Dreamland safe. He may act like a villain sometimes, but it's due to good intentions. He broke the star rod in the Fountain of Dreams in order to keep Nightmare trapped in there, and forced Kirby to go after the Squeak Squad by literally tossing him at them in order to get the chest that had Dark Nebula in it. He may also fight Kirby a couple of other times, but most of them are due to him being possessed by the current threat of the game. After being freed, he's more than happy to hop on over to Kirby's side to aim him and his friends in stopping the game's villain. Be it by joining Kirby on his adventure to help Ribbon restore the crystal shards, or by holding the line to rescue his Waddle Dee and let them and Kirby escape into Forgotten Land. Despite being more than happy to try and prove his superiority over Kirby, King Dedede is still more than happy ruling Dreamland through peaceful means. Now we have a group of heroes that want to be the very best, the Pokemon trainers. Yeah, we're going to be grouping all of them together into one collective group. These kids are a bunch of new Pokemon trainers who want to be the champion of the region they're currently in. Be it in the land of Unova, Johto, or Sinnoh, they're not stopping at anything till they achieve that ever-envied title. On this end, it isn't really heroic. What is heroic is that they somehow manage to save the region from destruction each time, be it by taking down Team Rocket, stopping the Aether President from using the Ultra Beasts for her own goals, and even saving the region of Galar from the darkest day, keeping Pokemon from growing giant and uncontrollable. While these new trainers are just starting out, and yet are somehow capable of beating other more experienced people in Pokemon battles consistently, they still are quite nice and heroic. Swinging on in next is the King of the Jungle, Donkey Kong. Quick recap, this isn't the Donkey Kong in the arcade games, but the DK in the Donkey Kong Country games and Mario vs. Donkey Kong games. This primate is the leader of the DK crew, hanging out on their island and protecting the land. These threats could be in the form of King K. Rool stealing their bananas or trying to blow up the island, a group of Tikis hypnotizing the residents into serving them, or a winter-loving Viking group trying to claim the island for themselves. Sounds pretty heroic, but what holds him back is his role in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games. Here, at least in the first two games, he's definitely a straight-up villain, wanting either the newest Mario toy or for Pauline to love his toy and throwing a fit when he doesn't get his way. But even here, he really isn't that bad, with him even giving Pauline tons of gifts in March of the Minis to try and keep her happy. Even then, his villainy in the later titles is heavily downgraded, with him and Pauline planning on the kidnapping in advance to either test the new toys or to help throw Mario a surprise party. Overall, despite a bit of a checkered past, Donkey Kong is definitely more hero than villain. The next two heroes called in are Galaxy Team's best, Rei and Akari. Originally just kids in the present day, they were taken into the past by Arceus. Landing in the Hisui region, they're taken in by Professor Laventon, suggesting that they could work for Galaxy Team, a group dedicated to studying the land and Pokemon. Despite being whisked away from their current home and brought to a new and mysterious land, these two are more than able to make a name for themselves, managing to bring peace to the land by calming the frenzied noble Pokemon. Given that they are twice their size and that they were more or less forced into this role just so they can still live, that's a great amount of bravery that cannot be understated. Even after being unjustly tossed from the village by Kamado, they still were more than willing to not only try and prove their innocence, but save the region from the rift that's opening up. They were also crucial in stopping Volo from his plan on causing mayhem with Giratina, just so he could meet Arceus. Speaking of Arceus, he definitely knew what he was doing choosing Rei and Akari to go to the past, as they proved to be true and genuine heroes, even if Kamado still doubts them a bit. The war against Andross is on now, led by the leader of Star Fox, Fox McCloud. The aforementioned leader of the Star Fox unit, Fox is a mercenary for hire. While this does cause him to lose some points, he still does have a genuine interest in stopping the villainous Andross, doubly so since his father was killed by him. With his squadron of eagle-eyed pilots, they're more than able to stop Andross time and time again, managing to blow up his base of operations in Venom. He's also been shown helping out the dinosaur planet by freeing it from General Scales, stopping another plan from Andross in the process. Fox was also instrumental in stopping the Aporoids from infecting all the machines in the galaxy. However, after the reboot, his heroics slowed down a bit, with him being more concerned about money and getting revenge on Andross. Despite these selfish goals, he's definitely more than capable of being the savior of the Lilat system. Flapping in at the very end of this tier is the Masked Swordsman, Meta Knight. While he's also another common boss in Kirby, he's much more noble and heroic than King Dedede. While serving him as a companion, Meta Knight is more interested in keeping Kirby safe and making sure Kirby is properly trained. He can be seen giving Kirby the occasional lollipop for invincibility and training with him in the art of sword battling. That said, he does have two incidents involving him being a villain, with them being in Revenge of Meta Knight, where after being sick of how lazy Dreamland is, Meta planned on taking it over so he could whip everyone into shape and the other time being him joining up with King Dedede to prove that they can be stronger than Kirby and his friend of choice, even donning cursed masks so their power can further increase. Aside from those 2 times, whenever Dreamland is in danger, you can expect Meta Knight to go after the threats alongside Kirby. He was the first on the scene after realizing that the Dimension Mirror was trouble, and was the first to try and fight back against Haltman's planetary invasion, and protected Waddle Dee Town from any outside threats after beating Gorimondo 30 times. This knight has honor and courage to spare, letting him stand guard at the end of this tier. Lastly, we have Nintendo's true heroes. These folks are truly heroic, the ones who make their respective worlds and universes better and safer places, with few to no downsides to them. They're the best of the best. Starting out this tier, we have the Star of the Sea, Starfy. Starfy only had 1 game in America, with an entire series locked to Japan. This star/starfish, I guess sea star, prince is a clumsy and airheaded fellow who is extremely loyal and friendly towards others. Basically, think Kirby, but as a sea-based platformer. With a character this naive, he does end up causing a bit of trouble on accident, being the one to accidentally free Ogura the first time around. However, he was also just as willing to go after Ogura after seeing him kidnap his mother. He's also strong enough to best not only Ogura, but his master, Evil, throughout Starfy's journeys. He progresses by helping strangers with their own deeds and tasks, showing genuine care for others. The 4th game is based around this entire premise, with him going to a new kingdom, the Ami Kingdom, just to help them find a stolen stone while fixing the damages the thief caused. When Bunston literally crashes into him while he was sleeping, Starfy is still more than willing to immediately befriend him and help him in recovering his memories and his ship parts, going with him to Bunnera to help him stop Mashtooth. As childish as he can be, Starfy still is as bright as a star, even if he technically isn't a star, nor a fish. Don't change that channel because we have a special offer with the hottest new toy, Chibi Robo. Remember those fake advertisements on TV shows that said, with the products they sell you can clean, do your chores, and fix your marriage? Well, Chibi Robo is that, unironically. Being sold on that premise, Chibi Robo is a miniature robot who is tasked with just trying to make the buyer as happy as possible. This could range from smaller stuff like cleaning up the house to bigger projects like maintaining a giant park, all the way to maintaining a space station. They also aren't strangers to stopping threats, with one Chibi Robo stopping a group of malicious spy doors, another stopping Sergeant Smogalore from spreading smog and pollution, and another Chibi Robo saving the Earth by stopping aliens from stealing the planet's resources. What do they get from doing these deeds? The happiness of others. They just want to make the world a happier and safer place. Despite how small they are, they make up for that with heart and dedication. Next up is the bounty hunter extraordinaire, Samus Aran. Now sure, she's a bounty hunter like Captain Falcon, but however, her deeds are much more benevolent. Once a worker with the Galactic Federation, Samus resigned and became a bounty hunter, paid by them in order to carry out missions. While she is in the same boat as Fox and Captain Falcon, what makes her different is that she's more than happy to be aiding the Galactic Federation, even as a bounty hunter. Samus is someone who marches to the beat of her own drum, and the Galactic Federation knows it. She's a lone wolf who doesn't really like being partnered up with others for missions, and her insistence on doing things her way does lower her a bit, but her good deeds do more than enough to put her up. She constantly keeps fighting off threats to the whole galaxy, ranging from Ridley and the Space Pirates, a group of deadly spacefaring pillagers with one of the most deranged leaders ever, to Mother Brain, a being who views herself as superior to humanity and believes she knows what's best. And even Ravenbeak, someone who wants to clone an army of Samus Arans in order to take over the galaxy. As much of a loner as she is, Samus is just as capable and worthy of being the savior of the galaxy. Continuing the list, we have the unexpected hero, the eternal understudy, Luigi. The first of the 2 Mario brothers, Luigi is almost always by his bro's side. Whenever he's not, he's standing guard and ensuring the home front is safe and clean. Being the player 2 to Mario, he shares in a lot of his deeds as well, like saving Peach from Bowser, stopping the Mega Bug from destroying the Rabbids' dimension and their own, and being the Dark Star. He even has his own unique feats, with him being a Ghostbuster that's able to capture any misbehaving ghouls and even save his own brother from King Boo multiple times. However, there are 2 big downsides to him: his fear and his exaggeration of the truth. The first is much more common, with him having to be coaxed multiple times into saving the day after being scared out of his mind, Even in Superstar Saga, with his brother's life on the line, he was too scared to even walk, having to crawl his way over to a shrink to give him the courage that Mario has. The second is seen when he recounts his tales in the Waffle Kingdom, parading himself as a true hero while his partners basically tell Mario that Luigi is full of hot air and says what really happened during his adventure. Despite these two flaws, he's been one of the more reliable heroes here, hence him being ranked as a true hero. It's ya boy, up next, the young lion Roy. This 15-year-old new army leader's just gotten thrown into the front lines, and he definitely does have some trouble trying to manage everything. Considering how a teen who didn't fully experience puberty is now in charge of a giant army, it's easy to see why he could be a bit stuck on what to do at first. Slowly, however, he starts to become a good leader, constantly fighting with his troops so he can understand people and just how to fight for them. He starts to become a more competent and earnest leader over time, with him trying to take the peaceful solution when he can, but not being afraid of fighting to ensure peace. Stopping a war to try and prove that dragons and humans can live in harmony while understanding the horrors of war is definitely a nice feat for any hero to have, and Roy managed to accomplish just that at the age of 15. Get ready for a newcomer, or 100 of them, because up next is the unstoppable, wonderful 100, and it is pronounced 100. While it is multi-platform nowadays, it was originally a Nintendo exclusive, and as such, it belongs here. This superhero team of 100 members is collectively Earth's mightiest defender. Led by the ever-loyal Wonder Red, this group of superheroes protects the planet from any invading threats, like the Gith Jerk Federation. Located throughout all corners of the Earth, these heroes come in all different shapes and sizes, joining up to become a powerful force to be reckoned with. That said, they do end up having to get used to working together, with multiple members having their own ideas about what to do. Wonder Blue is the most infamous in that regard, trying to go out of his way to disobey Red's orders multiple times just to try and kill Vision himself. Granted, having seen her kill his own brother. However, throughout the game, the group shapes up and becomes a true team. There is one other little detail to mention, that being that it appears in the future the organization will eventually become the Greater Galactic Imperium and become the villains themselves. But since they seem very devoted to avoiding this fate, and this is their ancestors in the future by 1500 years, it's not going to really be counted against them. Overall, they are just as heroic as their outfits look. Floating up this high into the sky is the pink demon Kirby. This bottomless star warrior has an appetite for food and friendship. Most days, he just spends his time hanging around on Popstar, more than content to spend his time with his friends doing casual activities. However, once something threatens his peaceful life, he isn't stopping at anything until his home is safe again. He's also just as capable to tackle any big threat, be it a demon trying to snuff out all the stars in the galaxy, to the trickster Marx making the sun and moon fight so that he could destroy the planet. Even when other people come to him with problems, like Ribbon telling Kirby that her home planet is being invaded by dark matter, he immediately races out with her to get the crystal shards back to save her planet. Despite his inherently good nature, he is still just a kid, and as such is prone to childish stuff like accusing Dedede when his cake got stolen, jumping to conclusions when seeing that Dedede broke the star rod, and being too trusting of others. A fact that Marx and Magalore were able to exploit. Plus, when given a voice in Kirby Avalanche, he was surprisingly sassy for someone so cute looking. Regardless, his heart is just as bottomless as his black hole of a stomach, letting him stay this high up. We saw this coming. Up next is the visionary Shulk. The wielder of the Monado, Shulk realizes that with this blade, he's able to see into the future. After seeing his hometown get demolished and his childhood friend Fiora get killed in front of his eyes by Metalface, Shulk swears vengeance upon the Mechonis, vowing to avenge Fiora. At first, his anger at Fiora's death fuels his rage and hatred, being more than willing to destroy any Mechon who gets in his way. However, once realizing that Fiora managed to survive, becoming part Mechon herself, he chills out and starts to get curious about the Mechon instead, trying to wonder just what they are and why they do what they do. Despite being pushed by Zanza to become violent, Shulk keeps his mind and collected nature, letting Aegil live and eventually beating Zanza himself, saving humanity from being destroyed. A noble and simple engineer, Shulk definitely lives up to the idea of what a hero could be. For our next group, it's the heroic kids from Eagleland, Ness's team of himself, Ness, Paula, Jeff, and Pooh. These four kids teamed up after Ness got a message from Buzz, an insect from the future, saying that he and his friends are going to beat Gygus, an alien bent on destroying the universe. So the four kids end up having to part with their comfortable childhood lives and venture out into the world, stopping a cult from taking control of a village, stopping a zombie plague from running rampant through a town, and freeing a group of Mr. Saturns from Master Belch. They were even willing to give up their bodies so their souls could be transferred to beat Porky. The thing have against them is that Ness can get homesick at times, which could be seen as selfish. However, considering everything going on for Ness and his friends, who are kids, by the way, getting nostalgic for home is completely understandable. For a group of kids who should be in school, they are definitely noble, to say the least. Cutting in next, we have the hero king Marth. This guy is Prince of Altea, who became the king of Arcania. As the ruler of his nation, he believes that he should be a shining example to his people. To that front, he exceeds with flying colors. After seeing his kingdom get destroyed, he vowed himself to not only return, but to save his kingdom and bring peace and prosperity to it once again. That said, there is still one potential downside to him, that being how he can be a bit blinded by rage at times. He was more than itching to kill Giol, the man that killed his father, and wanted to focus his efforts on liberating his homeland instead of focusing on trying to prepare himself first. However, during the course of the series, Marth becomes a much stronger and more capable leader, being able to properly keep his people happy while going out to free other trapped citizens of other lands. While rage may have a hold on him at first, he's more than proven himself to be a strong and noble leader. We're now on to our final 5 entries, and next we have the saviors of Kopai, the Kopai Expedition Team. These 3 explorers are Alf, the engineer, Brittany, the botanist, and Charlie, the captain. With their planet facing a deadly food shortage, these 3 were chosen to explore a distant alien planet in the hope that they could save their species from extinction. Alf is the straight man of the group, just trying to complete the mission to save his people. Brittany's there to ensure that the food is safe to eat, even if she sneaks a couple extra rations for herself instead of sharing it with Alf and Charlie. And Charlie is the self-appointed leader of the expedition, and while he has the ego to match that title, he is surprisingly noble, treating the Pikmin as his own children, and getting saddened when too many of them die at once. Throughout their journey, they not only help in growing more Pikmin, including discovering new species of Pikmin, but also save Olimar from the Plasm Wraith, giving them even more good points in their name, or I guess names in this instance. Despite the small size, they play a big role in helping to ensure their species continues without extinction, letting them rocket this high up. Just barely missing the top 3, we have the wielder of the Aegis, Rex. A scavenger who sends his earnings back to his village. He's already high up by his selflessness alone. After coming across Pyrrha after dying, he immediately trusts her, helping her reach Elysium. Becoming her driver, he ends up becoming good allies with her, with his positive personality and worldview rubbing off on her and her other side, Mithra, ending up managing to stop them from going through with their plan to off themselves by returning to Elysium. His kindness even helped Neo learn how to enjoy the world, even if people are nasty in her eyes. Really, we see the worst of Rex at the start of the game, with him being proud and cocky of himself, but throughout the game, he grows more humble and respectable during the journey. We're beginning to reach characters that are pretty easy choices for the most heroic around this part, and Rex is a good example of things to come. With the Bronze Medal of Heroics, we have the champion of Hyrule, or rather champions, with Link, with all his other incarnations. No matter the incarnation, his goal is the same: watch over Zelda and protect her from the forces of evil, most commonly Ganon, after Demise placed a curse on Link and his ancestors. While Link is another one of those generally silent protagonists, he's still a great hero. Actions speak louder than words, and with all of his incarnations, his actions all indicate that he's a great hero. Whenever the land is in trouble, he jumps into action, ready to help and serve the kingdom. That said, he does have a habit of breaking pottery to find gems, and sometimes breaking stuff just to get a heart piece. Skyward Sword is perhaps the most well-known example of this, with villagers actually calling Link out for his actions, and him even being forced to work a part-time job to repay for breaking a chandelier just to get a heart piece. Despite these actions, Link is still a true and well-loved hero of the land. Jumping all the way up into the Silver Trophy of Heroics, we have Mr. Video Game himself. It's him, Mario. Do we really need to say anything here? Mario's done it all, and then some. Sure, he saves Peach from Bowser time and time again, but he also helped in saving the galaxy twice, stopped an alien invasion from the Shroobs, the world multiple times from the Dark Star and the Shadow Queen, and the multiverse multiple times from the Megabug and Dementio. Even off the job, he's an outgoing person, always racing with his friends and even enemies for some reason, throwing parties with them and taking part in other sports just for fun. Even if you are an enemy to him, it's very hard for him to genuinely hate you. He was even willing to help out Bowser Jr. in Bowser's Fury, even if he is suspicious of Bowser Jr. throughout the game, which, considering that he was pulled into the world by Bowser Jr.'s paint, is understandable. Really, the only 3 negative qualities we could have against him is, for one, the whole possibility of him potentially being DK's abusive master in the Game & Watch Circus game, leading to the events of the original Donkey Kong. But with how the only source of information this came from being Miyamoto on a random online article with the story being nowhere on the arcade, we can feel safe knocking this out. The second is him possibly being egocentric enough to open his own toy shop, but with how common it is for people to open up stores in their own name, and how Mario has been revealed to have made toys for the other residents in the kingdom like Toad, Pauline, Peach, and even DK, it's likely he started the company to create mini toys of himself and his friends, and with a name like Mario Toy Company, it's pretty easy to understand just what is made here. Finally, his last questionable deed is his role as villain in Donkey Kong Jr., with him caging DK and using a whip on the other animals in the forest. While it is an odd choice for him to use the whip here, it could possibly be explained as him trying to just get something to defend himself from the animals in the wild, or in case DK escapes. It's still being counted against him, but we're willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Plus, capturing Donkey Kong for what he did in the first game is completely understandable. And besides, this is pretty much the only game where Mario is a villain, and even then, it's not hard to make assumptions as to why he's a villain. No matter just how you slice it, Mario overall is a true hero, through and through. Even if he doesn't have a perfect record, his good deeds soar far above the competition. Finally, the golden standard for being a morally just hero. It's the captain of Lady Palutena's guard, Pit. A literal angel of a character, Pit is Palutena's faithful servant, being more than happy to come to her aid whenever she needs help. He may not have as many big deeds as Mario or Link, but what he has in comparison to them is a genuine desire to help as many people as he can. Aside from constantly reassuring Palutena that she is a good leader and doing his best to spread cheer and hope throughout the land, he's just as friendly with his enemies. Veridi, despite her desire to kill off humanity, is someone Pit still views as an ally, with her growing a bit of a soft spot for him. When put in a position where he would have to sacrifice his wings just to save Dark Pit, he jumps at the chance without hesitation, just to make sure everyone is safe. Of course, his good deeds also extend into the field of battle as well, taking on powerful, godly beings just to keep humanity safe, be it Medusa or Hades himself, both gods that threatened the very existence of humanity. Even getting trapped inside a ring for years does nothing to slow down his resolve. Pit is an angel who has more than earned his title, and with just how nice and friendly of an angel he is towards everyone, while making sure to keep those who threaten the world in line, he's also earned his title of being the most morally upstanding Nintendo hero. Before we dare to wrap this list up, we have some medals we want to hand out to these heroes. The Darwin Medal, for stupidity, has to go to Charlie of the Kopai Expedition Team, who is more concerned about his missing rubber ducky than the missing food. Unless they can't eat rubber, this captain's priorities are a bit out of line. The Pride Medal for Ego is going to Luigi, for his adventures in the Waffle Kingdom and his obvious exaggerations and his partner's exasperations with each tall tale he tells. The Sloth Medal for Laziness is going to Kirby, who is more than happy to just rest and sleep the entire day away. When you're living a normal day on Popstar, all that you need to worry about is just what's for dinner. The Wrath Medal for Rage has to go to Pit, where after realizing that Chaos Kin is responsible for corrupting Palutena, he goes on a warpath to make sure that Chaos Kin is as good as dead. You just don't get in Pit's path when he's trying to serve his goddess. The Gluttony Medal for Endless Hunger goes to King Dedede, with his deed of stealing all the delicious food from the Dreamland's denizens. Okay, we're done with the Dededs, I'm sorry. It's time to do. The Envy Medal for their eyes on the prize is going to all the Pokemon trainers. When you want to be the very best, like no one ever was, there's one problem. There can only be one very best, guys. The Greed Medal for being the most money hungry is going to Olimar, with him putting money in front of his own safety. Those Hokotashians are quite money hungry. You know what, maybe Wario influenced them in some way. Finally, the Lust Medal for wanting to go to the 9th stage in the 6th world with someone is going to Donkey Kong, with his desire for Pauline leading to him kidnapping her. We can certainly see the appeal in Pauline, but this is too much. But what did you think of our ranking? Let us know in the comments below, and if you need a 1-up, make sure to hit that notification bell and binge more of our Nintendo videos. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.